because we don't understand how life formed, it is difficult to estimate this probability. The likelihood of a complex molecule like DNA being created by random collisions of atoms in a primordial ocean is fantastically small. In an infinite universe, it would happen in some places, but they would be very far apart. If we want to find advanced intelligent life, our best bet is to listen for radio signals.
Look up to the stars and the forests that surround. Do you see them? Do you hear them? Are they there? SpacedOutRadio.com presents S4 with Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and friends. Also, take the time to join the Forest Moon Paranormal Facebook group.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
Conspiracy, Area 51, Dogman, Ghosts, Cover-Ups, UFOs. The hidden will reveal itself.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4 with Eric Cooper, broadcasting live from the beautiful mountains of Concrete, Washington. And now, without further ado, your host, Forest Moon Paranormal's own, Mr. Eric Cooper.
Hey, good evening, everyone, all our S4s out there, and without further ado, the views and opinions of S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. Oh, no, my God, if you haven't heard Spaced Out Radio, it's on every night, 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time, www.spacedoutradio.com. So, some real quick announcements. July 14th, yes, we're almost into July next week. Can you believe that, folks? July 14th, Lone Star Restaurant at 11 a.m. is Paranormal Discussion if you live here locally. And then, of course, July 15th, Annie's Pizza, 2 p.m., Training, Alien Races. Now, if you're local, you've got to go see our very own Corey Ruiz at the Celtic Games, the Highland Games, at the Skagit County Fairgrounds. He's actually going to throw a log. Aren't you, Corey?
Yes, I am. It's called the caber toss. You take yourself a log. The one I've been practicing with is about 13 feet long, about 53 pounds. You balance it on end, and you kind of run with it, give it a good toss, and the idea is to flip it over.
Hell yeah. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, you got to check out the S4's YouTube channel. I've been uploading videos as fast as I can. Well, audio, show interviews, whatnot. And it's getting filled up. So go check it out.
Hey, Eric, can I ask Corey a quick question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Corey, after the Highland Games and tossing the caber, will you also be attending the Washington State Hernia Festival?
Believe me, that is not the only heavy thing we'll be throwing around at those games, so it's possible.
And yes, folks, tonight we have Markham and we have Everett Thiemer along with us for the Bilderberg, Cercle, and Corporate Corruption Show. And also a special announcement. July 26th is Markham and I's premier Can-Am Veterans Show. It'll be a monthly special feature under the Spaced Out Radio umbrella covering not paranormal, but veterans issues. And we are under the Spaced Out Radio umbrella. And go to spacedoutradio.com to access the link to the show. And we'll be hitting nothing but veterans issues. And that starts July 26th. Will be our premiere show. It'll be a monthly event. And I'll try to get some special guests on from the VA and that kind of thing. We'll be hitting PTSD, how to fill out your forms, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, if you have veteran buddies, get them into the show, because if they have issues, it's just like S4 and Spaced Out Radio, live chat room, and they can jump in, ask their questions, whatnot. Next week on S4, we're talking, is America great again, or was it ever great to begin with? Tell me that's not controversial. We're going to talk about the Founding Fathers, what America was originally set up to be, and is it that way today? Anyway, so now we're talking the Cercle and the Bilderbergs. And you know, when I plan shows, I don't look at current events to plan a show, but it just so happens the Bilderbergs met this month in Virginia, June 1st to the 4th. So I actually have their current itinerary that they talked about and a current list of all the attendees. And, yeah, I was like, oh, my God, they just met. Their annual event was here in America this month? Tell me that's not irony. And real quick, too, if you've just joined us tonight for the first time, welcome. This is the voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. If you haven't found the Forest Moon Paranormal group, look for us on Facebook. That's the only place we are. Paracon, September 23rd. What we're doing for people that want to be sponsors of Paracon that won't be able to make it or have a business they want listed as a sponsor, it's $30, and you'll be listed on our website. You will be listed on all print and digital promotional material. And if you can get us business cards and that kind of stuff, you'll also be on the sponsors table. So something new we're doing and trying out, and we have about 10 sponsors now. So, actually, BTO, the Illuminati is nothing to do really with the Bilderbergs. The Cercle is actually, well, we'll get there. You know what? We'll get there. So what do you guys think about the Bilderbergs?
Gosh, I'm not sure.
Well, you got to explain.
I go back and forth. I really do. In a way, I think that they are such a non-issue, but then in a way, I can totally grasp onto the concept that when you put these people together, they're going to make plans or conspire or make deals that can affect the entire world, and not every one of those plans or deals is completely ethical.
Maybe. But have you seen some of the names that go to the Bilderberg convention?
I haven't seen who was at this one, but I mean, you have the top of almost a majority of the major industries. You have everybody from entertainers to presidents of tech companies and any kind of industry.
Okay, real quick. So the Bilderberg Committee was founded in 1954. There was a meeting, an annual conference designed to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Every year, between 120 to 140 political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia, and the media are invited to take part in this conference. Now, I think the part that the conspiracy theorists jump on the most is how secretive it is, how much security is there. They're not allowed to talk about what goes on, yada, yada, yada. Now, if they were transparent and were saying, yes, you know what, this is what we're talking about, and this is why, it wouldn't be a conspiracy anymore. And if you have a question, I don't and put it in caps. Just like in Space Star Radio, put your questions in caps so it'll catch my eye. Because I actually have my chat window shrunk down a little bit so I can actually see my notes. So I see a lot of people asking about La Circle, and we'll get to there in more detail. But basically, you've got the Bilderbergs, which are your politicians, your nice little, the polite businessman, that kind of thing. The La Circle, well, for one, is funded by the CIA. It's in France. It started in France, but the CIA funds it. That raises red flags for me right there. And the difference between La Circle, you'll see a couple of common names between Bilderberg and La Circle, and one is Henry Kissinger. So La Circle is your assassins, your violent assholes, your CIA operatives, your British intelligence operatives. They're the ones that actually do the violent behavior for the Bilderbergs. Nothing really in common other than, well, some of the same names, and they are the assassins of all of them. They're the ones that actually went and got Hitler when he was supposed to be dead and took him to, where did they take him? Was it Australia?
Argentina.
I
believe it was Argentina. Yeah. And they just uncovered a whole cache of Nazi regalia and artifacts down there last week.
Well, so Circle went and snatched him up and took him to Argentina. That's where the Circle fits into the whole thing. They're the ones that get shit done of the violent nature. Whereas Bilderberg is nothing but, let's sit around a table and discuss how we can affect the citizens. So what do you guys got on Bilderberg?
Well, can I ask a question about La Circle, just quick, just to backtrack a little bit?
Okay.
All of the general reports or papers or theories are that Hitler went to Argentina as a plan and voluntarily. Are they saying, or what was he forced then to Argentina?
I don't know. What do you know, Markham? That's actually somewhat new information that's been coming out, I think.
Well, to be honest, I always thought the Bilderberger thing, the whole Bilderberg thing I thought it was made up by Alex Jones. I thought, it was a I thought it was a conference like the G8 or, movers and shakers type of thing that he called the Bilderberg. I was surprised to find out the ties to the Bush family, like Prescott Bush, and just, it's kind of, some of the cast of characters in the Bilderberger group overlap dramatically with the cast of characters that are associated with the Bohemian Grove bunch.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They all.
That tells me, that makes me think that this is a nefarious organization that doesn't have the common person's best interest at heart.
No, and I actually have the list of Bohemian Grove attendees as well, but we're not going to go into that tonight. That's a show by itself. And that's actually a show we need to get Christina George into, because she doesn't live too far from Bohemian Grove and is actually has some intel on that one as well. So this year, the Bilderbergs met June 1st to the 4th in Chantilly, Virginia. The top of their agenda was actually the Trump administration. A progress report. Imagine that. Even Bilderbergs don't like Trump. And for one, if you look at it, he pulled us out of the French convention. And the Bilderbergs have a whole lot to do with the global warming and the French convention and whatnot. So number 2 on their agenda was the transatlantic relations options and scenarios. And folks, this is information I'm actually taking right off the Bilderbergs website. They actually have a website now. They couldn't hide anymore. Number 3 was the Transatlantic Defense Alliance, bullets, bites, and bucks. Number 4 is the direction of the EU, European Union. Number 5 is, can globalization be slowed down? Number 6, jobs, income, and unrealized expectations. Number 7, the war on information. Number 8, why is populism growing? Well, we can answer that because everyone knows who Bilderbergs are now. And, well, the internet tells you everything. Because, everything is true on the internet. And number 9, Russia is the international order. Number 10 was the Near East. Number 11, nuclear proliferation. Number 12 was China. And number 13, current events. Current events. And, CERN actually has a representative in the Bilderbergs. And we'll get to that list here momentarily. So, yeah, if you look at, and maybe you guys can clarify this for me, but didn't Trump pull us out of the transatlantic convention or the transatlantic whatever?
It was the convention for the environment. And, yeah, he pulled us out of it.
No, that was the French convention. The transatlantic is something different. I'd have to, if someone wants to Google that real quick.
You can find everything on Google.
You can. Damn near anything. So the current, and if you go on YouTube, YouTube's the newest Google. So Trump was on their agenda this year. He's going against NATO. He pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement. There we go. Which tells humans what they can and cannot do due to climate change. So who was in Bilderberg this year? CERN, Goldman Sachs, Eric Schmidt, McMaster's, Wilbur Ross. Yeah, the Transatlantic Partnership. That's what it was. Trump pulled us out of that one too. But here's what you got to ask. Who is pulling Trump's strings? Anyone got
That's a good question. I think...
Do you really think Trump by himself decided, let's pull out of the Paris Agreement? I don't think so.
Money is pulling his strings. That's the period. Money is pulling his strings. Money has been pulling his strings from the gate, from when he started standing up at the podium saying, I want to be president. So
here's my thing. The man's already a billionaire.
Yeah, billionaires.
He's a billionaire on paper, though.
Yeah, billionaires don't get rich by spending money. They get it by taking money.
Part of the problem with his money, so to speak, is everything that he has is really just a licensing fee or agreement. He's essentially, for the most part, licensing his name. So, I mean, yes, he is a billionaire. Probably. I would say he's more in the high millions because, Trump likes to exaggerate, I guess is a good word. But, I guess my point is I think Trump can be bought. Whoever can come to him with the best deal is the one who's going to be able to sway him. And I think he would grab up as many of those deals as he could.
That's the major problem with having a businessman in the office, because it's exactly what he's going to do. Business is all about being self-centered, at the top, and how much money you can make. What's the best deal for you? That's not what a president's job is. A president's job is to be there for the people of his country. He's not. He is literally a businessman, and that's what it is. It's whoever can come to him with the sweetest deal, with the most money. That's where his lines lay.
Now in 4 years, this should put an end to the argument of all the people who have always said for decades, we don't need a politician in office, we need a businessman. Well, they got a businessman. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, the only problem is let's see how it goes is everything's going to be destroyed by the time it's done.
Well, then all those people shouldn't have been clamoring for a businessman.
Yeah, the problem is the rest of us suffer.
A little bit. Yeah. So who's pulling his strings? Well, let's look at his cabinet. He's got his son-in-law in his cabinet. He's keeping it in the family. I mean, I shake my head. But like you said, let's see how it goes.
His cabinet is full of his business buddies, his business partners, his family. I mean, it's all a money-making scheme for him and on all his friends.
Mm-hmm. And he had friends in the Bilderberg Convention.
Of course.
So the chairman of the steering committee for the Bilderbergs is Henry de Castries from France. He's the president of the Institut Montaigne, former chairman and CEO of AXA. And folks, I haven't had a whole lot of time to research all these individuals, but that's what you're going to do. That's what we do here on S4. We give you information. You go out and find more information about it. I'm going to tell you everybody that was in it, and not just the U.S. people, because you're going to see a whole lot of similarities here. Bankers, media, CEOs, and some of the CEOs, like, why is AT&T there? Makes you wonder, what's AT&T got to do with the Bilderbergers?
Communications.
Yeah.
You could go down a lot of routes with AT&T and the Bilderbergs.
Well, yeah, you figure they probably use the AT&T has some satellites, and they're pretty much global. I mean, well, they're not pretty much. They are global. Even countries that supposedly are isolated use AT&T satellites for communications for their elite. So they probably know where all the bodies are buried. Yeah.
And
people worry about the CIA and Homeland Security. Hell, a corporation like AT&T could quite possibly have, they could have their own listening centers looking for keywords. a good way to make
Now,
some
John,
money. You sell your stuff to the CIA.
John's bringing up a good point in the chat room that he broke his promise not to attack Syria. If you remember back when Obama was a president, he was ridiculing Obama about Syria. And he turns around and does the exact same thing. All because you saw people being gassed.
Yeah, but you can't really you can't really hold a president to their campaign promises. And the reason I say that is not only the history of it, but in a way, as we become kind of a populist society, these guys and women are going out there to win. And they are going to say whatever they can to whoever they can to get the most votes. So, in a way, a campaign is just like a game.
Now, the only problem with that is that there's lots of presidents that have made campaign promises, and most of them usually kept maybe half of them. This guy isn't keeping any of them. He got into office. He's putting his thumb on his nose, going, neener, neener, I'm all here now. There's nothing you can do. I mean, there is, but the problem is that you would have to have enough of the House and Senate on your side to be able to do it.
True.
And Tripp brings up Skull and Bones. Well, if you look at the Skull and Bones, the whole Bush family, including Jeb, are all Skull and Bones. Did they really fall off the map, or they'll never fall off the map? Most of your presidents are Skull and Bones. That's another one of those quote-unquote elite groups, secret societies. So here we have Paul M. Ackleitner from Deutschland, Germany, chairman of the supervisory board of Deutsche Bank. There's another bank. We have Andrew Adonis from Great Britain, the chair of the National Infrastructure Commission. We have Marcus Agius from Great Britain, chairman of the PA Consulting Group. And you know who I haven't seen in the list? So I've read this list a couple times. I haven't found anyone from Blackwater, which really surprises me. But this is not an all-inclusive list. This is only the list of attendees that they've actually put out. They're not going to put out everybody. So in America, we have Roger Altman, founder and senior chairman of Evercore. Anyone know who Evercore is?
I have to confess that I don't.
Neither do I. I was hoping somebody did. Oh, and here we have Jose Barroso, the chairman of Goldman Sachs International. Werner Baumann from Germany, the chairman of Bayer. Yes, that would be the aspirin company, Bayer Aspirin. So you have the pharmaceutical industries in there now. You have Renee Binko, AUT, isn't that Australia?
AUT?
Yeah. Is that the
I know AU.
for Australia? Okay. That's the founder and chairman of the advisory board, Cigna Holding. I've heard that name, but I can't place it. And you have
Cigna used to be a healthcare company, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah, they were something to do with medical. In fact, they still are. I think they make medical equipment.
And Teresa, no, you don't ever need a fix to shut your mouth and just listen. We like our listeners commenting. That's what you're in the live chat room for, so that we can address issues and questions. And if you have something to bring up, by all means, bring it up, because you're going to help the show. So in Norway, we have Richard Brandt-Svine, President and CEO of Norsk Hydro. I've heard that name too. Can't quite place it, but I have heard it. And we have John Brennan from Senior Advisor of Kissinger Associates.
Cigna is Global Health Insurance Benefits.
Okay. In France, we have Thomas Boubery, the CEO of AXA, AXA. I'm curious who AXA is. And we have Elaine Budd, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. Huh. And we have all these former Secretary of Defense in the Bilderbergs. We have William Burns, President, Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. From Norway, we have Kristen Clement, the CEO of Civita, CIVITA. We have David Cohen. Some of you might know that name. That's former Deputy Director of the CIA. We have Collision. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you look at these names and the companies they represent, on one hand, I can understand them meeting together, but on the other hand, when you put, Bayer is more than just aspirin. They make chemicals and they make a lot of different things. And you put a chemical company and a healthcare company and an insurance benefits company all in the same room. I'm not a giant conspiracy theorist, but that has the potential to be a little dangerous.
Yeah, I've got a lot of lab equipment that's Bayer.
Look at the whole conspiracy theory of population control. I was looking out my window yesterday, and lo and behold, there's a chemtrail. Huh. I mean, we could take this so many directions. But at the same time, is it proven? No, nothing we even discuss or it can never be proven. So Joe wants to know, is it possible that aliens run in some of these secret societies? Well, yeah, that's hands down, Joe. It's actually the reptilians that started the Illuminati and have extreme influence in the Catholic Church, the Vatican. So, yeah, hands down, the Masons, the Knights Templar, probably the Bilderbergs. You could take that again in a whole lot of directions, but it's pretty much, I can't say proven, but everything points to, yes, the aliens have manipulated since the beginning of time and started the Illuminati and then infiltrated the Knights Templar with the Illuminati. So that's how that kind of goes into play. And then, of course, well, we'll get into it next week, but of course our founding fathers were all Illuminati. You can tell that just by looking at, Washington, D.C. and how it's set up. Didn't we actually do a show on that, Markham? Is Markham still with us?
Did Markham leave?
No, I hit the wrong button and muted my phone.
I didn't think so. But...
too many moving parts for a bachelor degree medical technologist. No, I remember, I think we did that in either like late December. It should be in our archive. We did a show on that.
That was the Illuminati show, actually, because we actually talked about the founding fathers being Masons and Knights Templar.
Yeah. Yes.
And how the Pentagon and certain streets in Washington D.C. actually, if you look up, all point to the star Dogon. The Sirius star. So, yeah, you ask about alien intervention with secret societies. Well, there's your answer. Why would our founding fathers be curious about Sirius, which wasn't even found out about until I couldn't even tell you the year they found out about Sirius. But I mean, if our founding fathers knew about it back then, well, go figure. For sure. And here we have a senator, Tom Cotton. We actually have about 2 or 3 senators that are in the Bilderbergs. We have the ambassador of to the United States from China, Hui Chiangkai. I'm scanning. I'm just kind of picking and choosing all the American ones, but if they're and okay. So this guy caught my eye too. John Elkann in Italy, the chairman of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. You got in Germany Thomas Enders, the CEO of Airbus, the airline industry. Roger Ferguson Jr., president and CEO of TIAA, TIAA.
I've got a question here from the audience. They say, Ron Manuik says, how powerful is the Vatican these days as influencers, shakers, and makers? Does the telescope Lucifer signify anything serious?
I honestly haven't done a lot of research on the Vatican, so I don't want to give you a solid answer on that one. But I believe this is the first pope in a very long time that's even come to the United States. Is he manipulated? I have no real honest answer on that one. But ask yourself this. What's the Vatican even doing with a Hubble telescope or with a telescope if all they're about is religion? And on the paranormal side of things, just within the last 3 months, it came out in the news that the Vatican wants to have more exorcists in the field. Why would that be? And how many Catholics have you seen drop off Catholicism? I think more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact that religion, in general, spiritualism is great, but you don't need to go to a brick and mortar building to talk to your deity. Hands down. All the churches is manipulation and control and taking your money.
So with the Vatican, basically they're extraordinarily rich. I mean, they've got treasures under the Vatican that you and I couldn't even imagine. So as for anybody controlling them, I doubt it. As for them doing any controlling, it's very likely, and it's very obvious. You see in some things that go on out there that they got their hands in a lot of things. You see them getting their hands with politicians throughout the world, different governments. You see a lot of that type of stuff. But how much are they involved with, like, bilderbergs and stuff? And that I couldn't say. You don't see it show up very much. It seems like they have their own particular agenda they're going after. As you said, we've got a definitely
with the Bilderbergs, we do. We have a pope that's for the people in appearances.
In appearances, at least.
And with appearances, I think that if the Vatican was involved with the Bilderbergs, I think they would want to keep that as secret as they possibly could. That just doesn't look good. There's no way you can make that look good. A religious entity meeting with, joining forces with, having secret meetings with worldwide corporate leaders. That on the face of it looks a little iffy.
Mm-hmm. And those are probably the names you won't find on the open list.
Very likely.
Now, hold on. So Chris is saying churches force no one to give them money. Not indirectly, no. But when you say my deity, your deity wants you to give 10%, and you see all these people on TV showing all these third world countries, and I'm sorry, I was in Somalia, and I've seen Africans, and none of them looked like the ones on TV. And I believe some of those organizations were actually proven to be fraudulent anyway.
But you have to consider, though, too, not to go down the religious route. Many people use religion as a money maker, and not for religion or to benefit humanity, but it is essentially a business for them.
Right. And let me explain to you like this. If you want to find a good church, see what the preacher's driving. And,
heck yeah.
You know, so since there was actually a preacher that said that God told him that his followers needed to give him a lot of money so he could buy his own jet. I believe we've talked about this on Spaced Out Radio. He needed to get his own jet so he could get away from the sinners on the earth, or something of that nature. And, you know, and again, Chris, I'm not arguing religion. That's not what we do here. What does Eric drive? Eric drives an expedition and an explorer. That's what Eric drives.
Both old, beat up, and need repairs. I know. I work on them.
Eric does not drive new cars. Eric doesn't like new cars. But yeah, we're not here to argue religion or say your religion is wrong. Everyone's got their beliefs, and that's great. If you're comfortable with your beliefs, by all means, great. But look at the news. And considering I'm taking constitutional law, now let's talk about constitutional law for a second. The establishment of church and state meant that our government would not endorse any one religion over the other. And we have in cabinet right now an individual that is arguing that, well, no, the church needs to be involved with the state. No, it does not. That goes completely against what the founding fathers ever wanted. That there shouldn't be any question over constitutional law involving religion and politics. They should be completely separate. And that's enough about that. So next we have, I'm catching up here. We have Niall Ferguson, Senior Fellow. And I like how they call them fellows. We have Senior Fellow, Hoover Institution, Stanford University. And here we have, in Italy, Fabiola Giannotti, the Director General of CERN. Now, what's funny, what is CERN doing in the Bilderbergs? You got an idea?
Well, top
you could argue that they're bringing science and a science aspect to these corporations.
Well, they could also be there saying somebody's paying for CERN, probably going there to gin up support or making some kind of technological promise. Y'all send us a few more billion and we might be able to do, whatever pie in the sky they've got. So I have a feeling it's more to be close to the money than anything else.
But is there really a big profit motive in particle acceleration? I just don't see it having a day-to-day application in the real world.
Yeah, it's too much. I think I gotta wonder. There must be something else going on there. These particle accelerators. I mean, Nassim Harriman, who I kind of like Nassim's theorems, and some of the math is a little hard to get through, but I think deep down, at the basis of his theory is the truth. And there's always going to be a smaller particle if you have a bigger accelerator. And it's almost like this global theoretical physicists, WPA type thing. It's like, we need you got to keep all these guys. You can only have so many physics teachers because there's not that many people that want to learn it. You got to have a job for them. So I guess, CERN must be like the post office, but for particle physicists. I just really don't think after the first couple cyclotrons were built that they needed to go any further.
Well, I live not that
but
far
I'm not a
from
physicist either.
Yeah,
right.
I live not that far from Fermilab. And I just question, I understand the idea and the theory of looking for, dark matter? But
yes,
all the money that they've spent and all of this, and they managed to at one point create like 13 thousandths of a gram of this dark matter for, I believe it didn't even exist for very long. What real knowledge did we get out of that? Or is it truly just science for the pursuit of science?
Which I'm not opposed to, but, I think science for the sake of science is fantastic. Of course, I'm kind of partial to science, but I got to look. They justify it by saying, okay, we're looking for the fundamental building blocks of how, almost like how did the gods put the universe together, or God put the universe together. I mean, they even called the Higgs boson the God particle. But it just, I'm having a hard time articulating what I think it's a waste of time. I mean, there's other things we should be doing, like working on fusion and listening to the people that have already, they act like containment for fusion can't be done. It's been done. There's people building fusion reactors in their friggin' garages, for crying out loud. But it becomes, when you look at a place like NASA or Fermi, these places, they're kind of like the organizations that, choose your chronic disease. If they ever did find a cure for cancer or, heart disease, all this stuff, what would happen to these organizations that have been, getting fat by taking donations to do the research? If you look at how much of your donation actually goes into research, it's very little. It's a lot of administration fees. And if you've ever had to write a grant proposal trying to get just a few thousand, now, I'm not talking tens of thousands, I'm talking less than $10,000, write a grant proposal just to get some piddly lab equipment so you can do recombinant DNA research. Holy crap, But they'll throw billions away or give some asshole in a garage in Jersey millions every year to crush monkey skulls in a hydraulic press.
Oh,
So
God, we don't even want to go down that route of all the crazy money that's been thrown into experiments that were a waste of time and money.
oh yeah,
But
like
we
do monkeys like cocaine? You know, just stupid crap. I'm saying, you know, science for science there's got to be, you know, they decide they hooked. Here's a great one. I forgot how many millions of dollars it took, but what they did is they wired electrodes into this monkey's brain, and every time he pushed a button, he got the sensation of having an orgasm. Well, guess what? He starved to death because he got addicted to pushing that button and getting his rocks off and quit eating, quit doing anything but just sitting there and play. So, and it took, come on, common sense. There's none of it.
Well, this I'm going to direct at you, Markham. Ron wants to know, devil's advocate, will science go too far and be the end of all mankind?
No. I really don't. Right now, the scientific community, you've got probably the best science fiction book ever to describe where we're at now would be I think it was called The Eye of the Heron by Ursula Le Guin, and it just became where science was just spinning its wheels. It was obstructionist. It was more in trying to maintain a status quo, and it was very corrupted, and it became a money machine. And that's, she was only about 40 years off. The author.
Could that be why? Could that be why CERN is meeting with the Bilderbergs, though? Then
I just can't. The old saying is, if you lay with dogs, you're going to get fleas, or guilt by association. Right. When I don't care what the organization is, and the Bilderbergs seem to be kind of nefarious, if CERN's in there sidling up to them, can their moral fiber be that good?
Well, I'd like to interject here a little bit.
All right.
Here's some thoughts I have. You look at any time that there is billions of dollars being spent on something, and almost any time there is, you can find where there's somebody's friends having a backdoor handshake of making a ton of money on something that doesn't cost that much. So as for CERN, the amount of money that's being spent there's got to be something going on. And if they're involved with the Bilderbergs, you can almost guarantee that somebody in the Bilderbergs Association is making money off of what CERN's doing, and that money that's going into it. Two, my second thought is the question of, do you think science can be the destruction? And I think it can. And some people say, oh, there's no possible way, it's just science fiction. But you think about it for a second, and you look at the Terminator movies. Because you can take a lot out of some of these movies that they put out there. There's some truth put to that. That's science right there. And if it was ever put in place to where there was a real, actual artificial intelligence can think for itself, you've now created a machine that has no moral compass whatsoever. I don't care what programming you put in it, it can think for itself and override it. You've now created a very possible way of destroying everything on this planet. So yeah, I think it's possible. Do I know it will happen? No, but I think it's possible.
And, you look at the Bilderbergs and the names and what they represent that are in the Bilderbergs, you're talking trillions of dollars in one group of people in a building. And think of how society would be today if that trillions was put towards mental health, was put towards homelessness, was put towards even going to third world countries and teaching them how to plant, or things like that, and improving humanity, instead of going and smashing some atoms, instead of planning globalization, and all the other crap they talk about. And what's Trump doing today? Well, you know what? Trump's going to do what Trump's going to do. How about we look at ways to fix people, instead of smashing atoms? And and nothing against space exploration, whatever, but there's places on this own planet we haven't explored. What about the bottoms of the ocean? I mean, you might find an alien base down there, but what about the bottom of the ocean? We could go on.
We could, but I think, just like you have those ideas that's what money should be spent on, the people that have the money have, they're going to decide to spend it on what they want to spend it on. And most of these companies, these people, they're going to spend it on what's going to make them more money.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we think there's an agenda against the human race with the bilderbergs?
I think there's an agenda for money. I don't know.
I don't think the piss ants really matter to them. I think we're more like, I imagine when you're in that level of, you're in that economic strata. I mean, we're kind of like livestock to them, most likely. It's just, consumer. How do we market something that people don't need in such a way that they don't feel like they can live without it? Like fidget spinners. I'm being facetious in a way, but think about it. How much every year, or every month, there's this new gotta have item.
That kind of goes down the road I was going to go, in that with these companies, you have these companies that one can, company A can create a problem or create a product that affects humanity or the population, and they make money off of that. And then you, on the other side, have another company there, company B, who can then fix the problem that company A created by making all of their money. That's where I see kind of a little, I don't want to say they're out to manipulate or control or eliminate the population, but in a way they do kind of have the opportunity to put plans in place that can essentially, first company A profits, and then company B comes in and profits off of that, and then is it going to be company C? Or, how far down the line are we going to go?
They actually have a term for that. It's called synergistic relationships or something like it. It basically is a fancy word for one hand washes the other. Yeah,
but it sounds nicer.
It's like, well, it's basically a corporate gangbang, and we as the consumers are, unfortunately, the ones that are tired. But part of that problem is people buy into it. I mean, there's intelligent people that I know, that I respect it within the scientific community, but as soon as that new iPhone comes out, they'll whore out their friggin' daughters if they have to get that damn next greatest thing that's going to be obsolete in 6 months.
It's
You
the
know, that kind of
consumerism.
crap just drives me. Yeah, it's become a frenzy.
Hmm.
And
They've been
I
teaching
feel
it to
sorry
us
for
for
people that
years.
have kids. I mean, okay, it was bad enough when I was a kid because if a toy company, say Mego, had a toy called the Micronauts, which I still have all but one I've ever had in my life, I still own. But they were great toys, but the thing is, I discovered after I got the toys, there was a comic book. You know, so that was the beginning of things. You would have a company that would have a toy out there. They would get with Marvel Comics and say, hey, create a story, create some story arcs, and let's pimp out this toy through your comic books. Now that has evolved into, pick a cartoon from the 90s. You know, they all had a product tie-in. And now it's like everything, how many, case in point, look at, as far, within 20 years, how bad it's gotten. In the movie Star Trek 4, I'm going to put my nerd hat on, the car or the truck that the whale researcher is driving is obviously a Chevy. But the bow tie was, obscured, or I think they taped it over, and there was a little wraparound piece of trim on the cab. I know because I had that exact same truck, and that was taped over. Now you go to a movie, and the product placement is like, okay, Iron Man's drinking a Pepsi, Black Widow's using. Yeah, everything
Bumblebee,
now, and
Bumblebee is a Camaro.
Yeah, and I'm sure Everett. Everett knows marketing. He can probably comment on this more than me, but it just seems you don't have a chance anymore, even if you're not actively. You're getting product force fed on you, or it's impacting you. Because no matter where you look, it's there.
Well, the best one, and one of the early pioneers of it was Star Wars. Because, in the 70s, you take your kids to the store and they walk through and they see these, relatively inexpensive little action figures. So you get a few of them. And then you've got to buy the car that goes with them, or the little light Land Saber, Land Speeder, whatever it was. And then you've got that, so you need a couple more of those, but now you need more action figures. It was just a big cycle of buy more and more and more. And to go along with your product placement, today a lot of that is used to fund the movies. That money that they sell that space, just like we sell the naming rights to sports stadiums and buildings. They are paying these production companies to put their product in there and help fund the movie.
The bottom line is that consumerism has been beat into everyone's heads through televisions and radios and ads and different things since way back. If I had to figure, I was probably started about 30s and 40s, and it has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse every decade. And we're to the point now to where that they've finally got most of the people convinced in that sheeple way that I noticed was mentioned in the chat room a couple times, that hey, yeah, the next greatest thing, that's what's needed. Everybody's got to have it. You should have this. If you don't have this, you're not the coolest. And that's the thing right there, man. Everybody wants to have that status symbol, because that's exactly what it always is. It's a status thing. And that's how they have marketed this consumerism. So, yeah, I mean, it's
materialism.
It's all about, these big corporations and stuff being able to figure out what's the next thing that can make us the big money that everybody's going to want it. Fidget spinners. You know how much those things exploded? You know how many millions of dollars they're making off these stupid things right now? It probably cost them 10 cents to make.
Wish I would have thought of that.
Well, the funny thing is, I used to make, when I was a power tool mechanic, we would end up with, you'd replace a bearing that was getting a little catchy, especially if it was a warranty repair, because you didn't want the damn thing coming back, because warranty repairs didn't really pay the bills in a repair shop like that. So we would take these bearings, pull the seals off, clean out the race, repack, get them just shiny clean, hold them in our hands and hit them with the air gun.
Oh, yeah.
And see, get them spinning as fast as you can, which is fun until you have the bearing, the race that's holding the balls inside the bearing.
That thing comes
explode. Yeah, when it comes apart because you've hit it with 120 psi and it's spinning way past its rating.
Yeah, it gets
okay,
exciting.
Gentlemen, Ron has a question. Hollywood, government run or secret society?
I think it's its own. I think it's its own kind of propaganda machine.
Yeah, it's its own entity. There's fingers from every sector of everything in there. I don't think there's any one specific group that really controls it. And it's so diverse. There are so many aspects to it now that I think everybody has their finger in it and wants to control it, but I don't think there's any overly powerful controlling group.
Well, think about the ones that have their fingers in the pot. They can get their propaganda out through a movie, through a certain actor or actress. And you pay them enough money, they'll go out there and promote your product. And everybody loves, oh God, I can't even think of any of them. But everybody loves this actress or this actor. And if they're promoting Coke or if they're promoting Tylenol, you're going to run out and use that product. So, I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head in that, everyone's got their agenda or their plot, and they use Hollywood to promote it.
Well, you've got certain. I think you've got corporations on one hand that are controlling one aspect of it. You'll see movies that reflect that. And then there's another aspect where government's controlling it. You'll see movies that reflect that. And then the third aspect is those who are a little bit more independent, who are usually trying to get a message out. Those are usually the ones that we look at that movie and go, boy, that looks like there might be some truth to that. I think that's your third run right there.
If you guys want to see a movie about what kind of generally what we're talking about, now granted it's an independent movie and it's kind of got sort of a sci-fi type base, but it's called Branded, and it will make you think. I mean, they take it to a weird, almost They Live type theme, but I think it's on Netflix. But it's called Branded, and you will never look at a product the same way again. Cool movie though.
You want to watch a good TV show that pretty much points to government corruption and criminal activity. Watch Blacklist. Any of you guys been into that one yet?
I love it.
I think
I love the first couple seasons. I had my cable disconnected because it just chapped my ass that I am paying $70 a month for basic cable and having to sit through the damn commercials or pay a monthly fee for something to record my programs so that I can fast forward through the commercials. If I'm friggin' paying that much to watch TV, I should not have to sit through commercials.
No.
And that just, I just finally decided, well, screw it. I've got Netflix. Next year when the season of, the season that I need to catch up on, I'll binge watch it. I'll get the whole season's worth of crap, done in a couple days and get on with my life.
Right.
Yeah, but
Eric, commercials are what tell you what you're going to need next. You can't skip the commercials. They tell you what your neighbors are doing and what you're going to need next.
I know, but I only need one company. I only need one company advertising, and that's Kiesel Guitars. I'm addicted to Kiesel Guitars, and they take all my money, so I don't need any other advertising.
Well, this is
Jeff Kiesel gets all my money.
This is part of the reason why you start seeing more product placements in actual TV shows and stuff, because there's a lot of people that are doing that now. I mean, even myself, we've done that here at home. We got rid of, cable, and we've gone to strictly streaming. So I pay, one price for the internet. The internet covers both, what's being streamed and basically what I'm doing here. And, of course, there's usually a small fee or something for Hulu or Netflix or a couple of those other ones. And the bottom line is basically you can go and watch anything you want there without all the extra commercials and extra, hubbub that comes with it. But, that is part of the reason why you're starting to see more product placement within the TV shows, is because they know that people are doing this and they still need to try to place their stuff out there so they can make their money.
Gotta tell you, I wish I could. I wish I could stream stuff. I can't. Where we live, the phone lines are so old they can't survive or support high-speed data.
Yeah, I think ours is done through cable internet, but yeah.
Yeah, see, we don't even have a cable provider.
Wow, you really do live in BFE, don't you?
You really are.
Yeah. We have our satellite dish on the roof, and that's it.
Yeah. The satellite sucks. But okay, so we're less than an hour, and we have to hit the circle because the circle is the one that everyone's saying they haven't heard about. So you look up the circle, you're going to find a whole lot of information. It's an international security think tank, and like I told you in the beginning, it's all the assassins and all the worst of the worst, funded by the CIA. Now, some sources say it was set up in 1969. It actually goes about 150 years prior to that. Let's see. So Dr. Otto von Habsburg, last Crown Prince of Austria-Hungary, head of the Imperial House of Habsburg and sovereign of the Order of the Golden Fleece, was the driving force behind the creation of the circle. The theory is it's 175 years old, but validated that it ran under different names and was started by a group of European royals. That's not confirmed. But the group's current chairman is Norman Lamont, former British Chancellor of the Exchequer, however the hell you say that. He worked at Rothschilds. Imagine that. You're going to see some common names here. Just like, as you notice in S4, a lot of our shows interconnect. A lot of the stuff we talk about in one show, we've actually talked about in other shows. Not intentionally. It just works out that way because that's how well the paranormal and the conspiracy side work. So he worked at Rothschilds and is a member of the Privy Council. He's also chairman of the Oil Club. Many comparisons between bilderbergs and the circle, as Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller were involved in both groups. So like I said before, the bilderbergs are the intellectuals, the businessmen, and politicians, whereas the circle is murderers and spies, has a violent past. Not much has been written about the circle. They're actually a lot more secretive than the bilderbergs are, which is why a lot of you haven't even heard of these guys. In the 1980s, It was actually written about in Der Spiegel in Germany due to controversy around Franz Josef Strauss, one of the regular tenants. There have been many ties to the CIA and the MI6 with Le Cercle as well. In the late 90s, a scandal broke out involving Le Cercle involving Jonathan Aitken, then chairman of Le Cercle. Today, Le Cercle is almost 100% funded by the CIA and some business moguls. We know some of the dates of their meetings, but they're only attended by about 100 at a time. So, Le Cercle has two separate groups. One is U.S. and one is European. They have two meetings, one in the autumn, which is in the USA, one for the spring, which is in Europe. The identity of the American chairman is unknown. The U.S. chairman is less publicized, so unqualified references to the chairman will very probably be references to the European chairman. So the European chairs include Brian Crozier, 1980 to 1985, Julian Amory, 1985 to the early 90s, Christian Swart Schilling, 1 year, Jonathan Aitken, which I swear we've heard that name before, 1993 to 1996, Norman Lamont, over 10 years, and most recently was Michael Ankrum. The two U.S. chairmen that are known is Ted Shackley and his successor, Richard McCormick. So getting to some more notes about Le Cercle, after World War II, the Knights of Malta, who are members of Le Cercle, helped smuggle Nazis out of Germany with the help of the OSS, later the CIA, which the CIA later helped fund the Radio Free Europe, the Economists, the European Council of Princes, the Galen Organization, the Stay Behind Networks, the Pinay Circle, which is actually the name of Le Cercle before they became Le Cercle. So look up Pinay, P-I-N-A-Y, and the overall European movement. Money was funneled through the American Committee on United Europe, the ACUE, which was established at the direction of Duncan Sandy, Joseph Redinger, Alan Dulles, and William Donovan. Dulles and Donovan were top CIA chiefs and Knights of Malta. Redinger, a Vatican agent. There you go. Yeah, Vatican. And Duncan Sandy's son-in-law of Churchill, along with the CIA, the Ford Foundation, and the Rockefeller Institute, were prime sponsors of the ACUE. Le Cercle sold technology to Russia to make them a superpower and exaggerated the Cold War to keep covert funding going. Also sold out to Le Cercle is the British throne in the city of London. 3 people have been named as Le Cercle's chairman: Julian Amory, then his protege, Jonathan Aitken, and no Lord Norman Lamont, who remains in place today. So what's your opinions about all that?
I think the surprise or the troubling part of it would be that the Vatican is not involved in the Bilderbergs, but they are involved in this.
Yeah.
That seems unusual.
Here's the thing. How do you know they're not involved with the Bilderbergs? Just because their name's not on the publicized list, which I wouldn't expect them to be, because
Right.
Would you really want the Pope's people to be listed in Bilderberg? Not at all.
Well, this is a publicized list here, isn't it?
Huh?
This is a publicized list here, isn't it?
Yep, the publicized list. Yeah.
It seems interesting.
It is.
To me that the Vatican would have their name attached to assassins versus just the Bilderbergs. I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the Vatican, needs to be able to take out whoever doesn't agree with them, huge publicly too. But it just seems a little odd. But yeah, I mean, and it doesn't surprise me that the CIA funds the Cercle. I mean, if it's full of assassins, who's got more assassins than the CIA? Really.
Mm-hmm. And, Margaret Thatcher is even part of Little Circle. And
How many assassinations do you think they've committed or endorsed in the last 50 years?
Oh, God. I've got a list somewhere on this computer. So, I mean, if you want to look at, if you want to look at that, look at our own government. Our own government uses Delta Force. If they want someone out of power, and all of a sudden you hear, hey, the president or the what do they call them? The prime minister of Saudi Arabia has been killed. Whatever. Who do you think did that? It wasn't someone in his country.
Well, I guess my point is, if they're committing numerous or innumerable assassinations, for the Vatican to openly attach themselves or publicly be on this list, that's troubling. Because we could make the argument that, occasionally the Vatican needs to take somebody out. But they shouldn't, as a religious organization, they should not be standing idly by while, one person is killing another person, and it's the fundamental reason is somebody's beliefs differ from somebody else's. You would think that a religion would be more evolved than that. And if they're on this list and these things are going on, that would be troubling.
Well, you've heard of the underground vaults of religious texts that the Vatican doesn't want anybody else to know about.
Yeah, especially the priests.
Based on that alone, it doesn't surprise me that they wouldn't be involved with assassins. Because, I mean, if any of those books leak, which they do occasionally, the Hidden Books of Thomas, for example, where, watch the movie Stigmata. If you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out.
Yeah.
The movie Stigmata talks about, it's based on the Hidden Books of Thomas, which are in the vault of the Vatican. Because
wasn't that main quote, though, that about, if you move a stone, or, I am there. Basically, it was saying, it was, the words were supposed to be Jesus is saying, as far as God goes, or, communing with me, you don't need a church. So obviously that one got put in the crap can.
Because they want you to go to their building so that they can manipulate and control you. And again, I'm not trying to get back into religion, but there you go. The Vatican hides books so that the people don't know true religion. That's the bottom line. Do you really think the Bible is complete? It's not.
With the circle there, the connection there, I guess they kind of forgot about, thou shalt not kill. I guess that one kind of got lost there a little bit, didn't it?
So, the circle has intimate connections with a host of interlocking right-wing outfits, including WACL. Not really sure what that is. I'd have to look it up. The Heritage Foundation, Western Gold, ISC, the Freedom Association, Interdoc, the Bilderbergers, imagine that, Propaganda Do, Opus Dei, the Moonies, the Jonathan Institute. Many of these are funded fully or in part by the American Central Intelligence Agency. Members have included Nicholas Elliott, British SIS MI6 department head, the CIA's Director of Central Intelligence, William Kobe, Colonel Botta, Swiss Military Intelligence, Franz Josef Strauss, the German Defense Minister, head of CSU Party and Bavarian Premier, Alfredo Sanchez Bella, head of European operations for Spain's Secret Service and closely connected to Opus Dei, Giulio Andrade, former Italian Prime Minister, P2 member and Mafia confidant, General Antonio Di Spinola, head of the Portuguese Putschists, Silva Munoz, former Franco minister and senior Opus Dei member, Monsignor Brunello, Vatican prelate and BNG agent. Stefano Della, I'm not going to try that one, leading member of P2 in Italy's Secret Service. SID attendees at the 1990, okay, here we go, 1990 Circle meeting at the sumptuous Al Bustan Hotel. And, they don't pick cheap little Motel 6, or they pick the expensive ones. But these are the attendees of the 1990 Little Circle. Jonathan Eichen, Minister of Defense Procurement. Alan Clark, Minister of State for Defense. Lord Julian Amory, Joint Chairman. Sheikh Qaboos, ruler of Oman. General Norman Schwarzkopf. Imagine that. Paul Shannon, former Secretary of State of the Department of Trade and Industry, the head of the Dutch Secret Service. The unnamed French naval admiral, plus other serving or former intelligence operatives and VIPs. Aiken, Clark, and Shannon have all been heavily implicated in the arms to Iraq affair examined by Lord Justice Richard Scott. So there you have it, folks. Lost Circle. And it surprises me, although it shouldn't. I actually met General Schwarzkopf in Kuwait in 1991. Does it surprise you all that he would be involved in the circle?
It doesn't. I want to say it does. And maybe as a person, on a personal level, I would like to think it would. But with his position and his career, it doesn't surprise me one bit that he's involved or was involved.
I'm sure he still is. Oh.
You got to wonder, though, some of these people that wasn't, get in bed with the enemy enough to get your power, and then I think a lot of times you get people that form these alliances thinking, well, once I get a certain level, I can tell them to go bugger off. And the reality is that the length of time it takes to get to that level of power, you are inextricably, interconnected to the point where there is no buggering off. I mean, it'd be like pulling your heart out and, trying to live without your guts or something. It comes to a point where I think they get into these things with the intent. Kind of like, think of what the analogy is in Lord of the Rings. The one ring could not be used even by a good person because it just wasn't, you couldn't use it for good. It was just not the way the thing was made. So even if a good person tried to use it, they would be corrupted. And I think that's how a lot of these power organizations sort of keep going, is good people think they're going to be able to use them for their own ideals, and it don't work that way.
But isn't that almost worse than them just being a organization doing what they do? If everybody's coming into it with the idea that they're going to manipulate everybody else in the organization, that can be a little dangerous.
But that's what power is all about.
Well, yeah.
People who have that kind of money, I mean, okay, there's only so many guitars, whores, sports cars. There's only so much stuff you can buy with your money before the thrill is gone. I'd personally like to put that theorem to a test, but so what is left? You jockey for power. It's like playing chess in real life. I think that's where these organizations spring from, and keep going. It's just a way of channeling the hunger. It's like, okay, I've got all the money I could ever. I've got more. The mindset I think is, okay, these people have more money than they'll ever be able to spend. They got to do, that hunger, that drive has to go somewhere.
here's
So
the
they
thing,
turn
though.
humanity into a chess game?
I
Pretty
think
much.
so.
The whole thing.
I think
The
so.
whole thing is a game of chess.
I think it's all a big puppet theater. A lot of it.
It's all a game of chess, but once they get into that and think, oh, yep, I could just step out, that's when you see, oh, look, so-and-so got cancer and died. Oh, look,
Right.
so-and-so got AIDS and died. You know how many people have had AIDS that didn't have AIDS, but everyone thought they died of AIDS?
What was that? I think it was Andropov said at one point, was quoted as saying, in the USSR, our political inconveniences die of heart attacks, and in the United States, they die of cancer.
Yep.
I've heard somebody. Well, okay, I can see where AIDS could be just somebody's natural loose morals wanting to put their, swap bodily fluids with whatever. That could just be its own reward. But there was actually somebody who had I wish I could remember the name. I got to do some research. I'd like to get this person on a show. But they said that there was a weaponized version of cancer. And you had, it is no damn coincidence. Now, I've worked in cancer centers. I know a little bit about which cancers are common. Glioblastoma is not a common cancer, and it is almost, I think it's 99.9% fatal. And within the 2 years of that Valerie Plame being outed, the guy that outed her died, and Ted Kennedy died of glioblastoma. And there's been more. That's just two of them I'm pulling off the top of my head, but it's like all of a sudden there was this rash of glioblastoma deaths.
And
the type of brain cancer.
Would that be easy to introduce? Because, a lot of these people that have had these unfortunate diseases and died that we could say are politically motivated, a lot of these people are in positions where they are required to have an annual or semi-annual health checkup, where it seems like it could be somewhat plausible that if this were mixed with an antibiotic or some sort of like B12 shot or something, it could easily be introduced into their system.
If they know a trigger, and here's where science meets conspiracy theory, if they know how to trigger something, if they know the specific protein chain that needs to be disrupted or the mutation that needs to be caused, they can do it with X-ray radiation, or it could be done in such a way, either like you're saying, Everett, it could be done through a routine inoculation. Oh yeah, you need to have your pneumonia shot, your flu shot, pick your poison, or let's do that CT scan. Your yearly CT scan. And, it can be administered. And that technology was coming along the pike back 20-some years ago, because I got wind of some stuff like that back when I worked at Vanderbilt. So I'm sure by now it has been more than, I'm sure it didn't take them long to figure out how to weaponize that or how to use that.
I like what Andy says here in the chat room too. He says on all of this too. He says when you get that powerful, they make sure that they have something on you so you can't get out.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh yeah, all it takes is one incriminating photo with, balls deep in a goat, or everybody's got something that they don't want the world to know about. Everybody within listening range of my voice can think of one dark little secret or little guilty pleasure that they would just absolutely rather die than have, exposed. Except for
It's
me,
funny
I don't give
that
a
you say
crap.
one.
Yeah, at least one.
Oh, and here's a name you'll recognize that's been in the media, that's in the Bilderbergs, and that's General Petraeus. You recognize that name, don't you?
Good old General Petraeus.
Yeah, he's the chairman of KKR Global Institute. And he's in the Bilderbergs, along with Wilbur Ross, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States, and David Rubenstein, co-founder and co-CEO of Carlyle Group.
And he was a cabinet member for Rubenstein. Wasn't he a cabinet member either in, oh God, it seems to me it was Clinton, one of the Democrats, like maybe Clinton, or, God, you have to go all the way back to Carter. I don't know, that Rubenstein, I think he was on Clinton's staff at one time, had a cabinet position. It just sounds familiar. Tickling me at the edge of memory.
And Robert Rubin, the co-chair Council on Foreign Relations and former Treasury Secretary.
Robert Rubin, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's in Bill.
He plays Pee Wee Herman. Oh, wait, that's Paul Rubin. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, you can see how deep the Bilderbergs get when we have our own government. And like I said, we have senators that are actually on the Bilderberg list. The published list, that is. H.R. McMaster, the National Security Advisor. That troubles me. And for our Canadian listeners, David McKay, the President and CEO of the Royal Bank of Canada. Terence McAuliffe, the Governor of Virginia. I mean, what are they really talking about? And why do they have to be behind closed doors to talk about it?
Money.
Well, what do you think their ultimate agenda is? Or let me rephrase it this way. How do you think they've affected us, the population in general? What have they, is there anything that they've done that we can say, oh, that affected us in this way?
How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Yeah, is it all smoke and mirrors to hide something else?
You almost wonder, as visible as they are, and as right. Okay, here, this thought just occurred to me as I was, as visible as they are, and as well known as the people are. Could they be sort of like a false flag? While we're looking at this nefarious, Bilderberg group, the real assholes are doing something, behind our backs that we're not. Maybe it's
when I was getting my notes together and actually doing research for the show tonight, my mate and I were actually talking about that. In that, while we're looking at it, like you said earlier, it's a game of chess. While we're all focused, and Alex Jones, we can thank for all that, because Alex Jones is the one who bombarded their doors, and he's the one who got everyone familiar with the Bilderbergs initially, which is why they started a website, why they started publishing names to, oh, look, the Bilderbergs are meeting again. And, every year they meet somewhere different. And so while we're looking at the bilderbergs and this awful group and what the hell they doing, yada yada, there's something else going on over here. And that's not actually what you got to worry about, because some people will go, okay, that's a false flag. What's this going on over here? And that's another false flag, because actually what you really need to be looking at is over here, there's this little governor that behind the scenes, while everyone's focused on these other two things, is actually signing a bill to kill off transgenders for something that's actually going to affect people. It keeps the eyes off them.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It
Yep.
seems like every time in the, here's where I'm going to get to hack on you liberals. It seemed like every time Obama did something so egregious that the rest of us wanted to lynch him, there was some other crisis du jour that took the spotlight off of him. And it's not just him, it's been political figures since the media became, I think even as far back as Walter Cronkite. I mean, when the media became trusted, you could,
right.
I think it's called wagging the tail wagging the dog. You send out this, tasty tidbit of scandal that directs everybody away from the real. It's just like magic. I mean, it's all misdirection and sleight of hand, but just on a grand
scale.
Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about
words that can mean anything are dressed up for the kill. You're just, yeah.
Then is it possible, even then, let's say that's what this is it possible the membership of the Bilderbergs, maybe a small percentage of them really know what's going on, but then the other, let's say 90, 95, 98% are really there just because, like Eric, you said, when you get to be so rich and so powerful, you have to find, something to kind of keep your interest. Are they there just thinking, oh, this is kind of cool, I'm part of this now?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I think so.
Here's something to think about too. Is it? Look at racism. We shouldn't even have that anymore. But
no, not at all.
The fact of the matter is that if these groups can keep everybody fighting each other, that in itself is a big enough distraction to keep everybody from joining together to go after them. That's the point.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is the key ticket right there. You want to know what they're doing, that's what they're doing.
So much about racism, when you look at it, isn't so much about the person's race, but about culture. I mean, you look at, we all almost, I won't speak for everybody, but there are certain groups of people or certain cultures that probably get on your tits. You see a behavior, you see a way, something. It's almost like certain groups are brainwashed into acting a certain way because color has nothing to do with it. I don't give a crap what somebody's color is. And to take Martin Luther King's and paraphrase him, the content of their character is more important to me than their color, ethnicity, religion. An asshole is an asshole no matter what color you paint it. So I think a lot of racism is sort of a social engineering. You take different groups. I think they have target groups, and they prey on, these powers that be, prey on vulnerabilities or prejudices. And like I said, you wouldn't even have to see a color. If everybody was one color, if everybody was gray, we would still hate each other because of behaviors and culture. So racism isn't, so to me, I don't think racism is about color. I just think it's sort of an artificial way of dividing people. Because face it, if we all turned toward our power elite at the same time and said, it's over, they couldn't arrest, kill, just, they couldn't control us all.
No.
So let's get this bunch strung out on drugs and living on welfare so that this bunch can resent them for, every time they look at their paycheck and see how many, the taxes going out, driving a 2002 beat up Sentra while the welfare parasite that deals drugs is driving an Escalade. These kind of things build resentments, and it doesn't matter. Color doesn't matter. It's the resentments toward the behaviors.
So instead of it being racism, it's almost more of like a culturalism.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that's the right word. I have the concept in my head, but I can't put a vocabulary to it. So I guess we'll call it culturalism. One of the problems we have in the United States now, back in the back in the 1900s, people came to this country and wanted to be Americans. I've met some of these older people that, they left Italy to come here and become Americans, not Italian Americans. I've known Iranians that came here back in the 90s that wanted to be Americans, that liked the fact that they could walk down the sidewalk holding their wives' hands and she didn't have to be covered in a burlap bag with nothing but her eyes showing. They wanted to be Americans. They wanted that freedom. Now you've got enclaves. And it's not, we don't want to be Americans. We want to be, we want to be Somalis living in Maine. We want to be, they want to keep their national or their cultural identity. They don't want to assimilate into the what used to be a dominant culture. I don't think, yeah.
It's a construct of mass hatred is what it is. And it keeps everybody fighting with one another so that nobody will turn and look to see where the real problem is.
And you can find the roots to that in this country way back in a little thing called the Stono Rebellion. Look it up. And that's why this group doesn't trust this group, but the banker is all of our friends, okay? If you look up the ramifications of the Stono Rebellion, we're still playing, that was the first move on the chessboard even before we were a sovereign nation under our own rules. And we're still playing out.
We'll talk about that next week. Bring that up next week.
All right.
You know what? We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to ask you a question, being Navy. What do you think about the destroyer that ran into the cargo ship?
How in the hell? I mean, those Burke-class destroyers are I was served on an aircraft carrier. Remember that old song, Give Me 40 Acres and I'll Turn This Rig Around? Well, you ain't going to do that in 40 acres with an aircraft carrier. Those those Burke-class destroyers are nimble. They can really turn on a dime. How in the hell did the captain of one of the fastest warships in the fleet, for its size, hit a cargo ship?
So what do you
There's
think?
more to that story. I do not know if it was supposed to be a distraction from something. I've been trying to see what happened in its wake. Mm-hmm. Not the ship's wake, but I mean in the wake of I mean, that's not since John F. Kennedy's fast boat got run over by a much slower craft in World War II has there been something that outbalanced. I mean, not to bash Kennedy, because in retrospect, I think he was probably a hell of a good president. I was less than a year old when he died, but just looking historically, he had a lighter, faster, more maneuverable craft, and he got his ship run over by a larger ship. There's a narrative there that didn't make it, and if he'd been anybody other than Joe Kennedy's son, he'd been court-martialed. I don't know how this happened, that a cargo ship that's probably doing 17 knots at best, and a destroyer capable of over 31 knots. There's no way they should have ever got that close to each other.
False flag?
That or just, okay, I will say this as somebody who had family in the Navy that were commissioned officers, and I've met some others. You can be a dumb son of a bitch and end up in command, depending on the politics. So I don't know if it was a false flag or just somebody who is a living proof of the Peter principle and rose to their maximum level of incompetence.
Well, the commander of that ship rose through the ranks pretty quick, didn't he? He actually came out of college and was promoted up to that position really quickly, from what I understand.
Yeah, now usually a captain, the captain in the Navy is title as much as rank. You can be a lieutenant commander, which is only, let's see, ensign, lieutenant, JG, lieutenant, an 04, and be the captain of the ship. Captain is the title that comes with the command. Now, in the Army, full bird colonel and a Navy captain are the same rank. That's an 07, I think. 06 or 07. Anyhow,
I think it's an 06.
So it may have been this guy just got command before he should have. I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's how it could have happened. But I'm just, when I read that, and it's like a Ferrari getting in a collision on a football field with a Fiat. I mean, it's just, there's no, if it wasn't deliberate, it was gross incompetence.
Well, think about it in this realm. What if there was something on that freighter that they didn't want getting somewheres, and it's one of those things where you can't just shoot it down? Well, let's make it look like an accident.
There's other ways of there's a lot easier ways of doing that.
Of course there is, but
I think the easiest way to get to the bottom and rule out conspiracy, look at the 7 sailors that died and look at the background of them.
That might be something to, I think we've got a topic for our first Can-Am Vet show there, at least the intro, Coop.
Right.
I think we need to look into that, because it's loss of life. And the captain was like, who said that? Somebody just made a mention of the captain being flown away with a head injury. Yeah, trip and fool.
Yeah. Now, Andy has a question, and you would be the one to answer this one. Does that mean this Navy captain's career is over?
Well, Not necessarily. The captain of the Nimitz while I was on board, his name was Raymond P. Ilg. He frigged up about as bad as you can. He hit a whale. I think he ran aground. Well, that wasn't really his fault, because once you're pulling into port, the pilot comes on board and takes over. But yeah, he screwed up so bad. Most people who become the captain of the Nimitz are full bird captains, and they go on to become, rear admiral, they get an admiral's job after that. They reinstated the title of Commodore for Captain Ilg because he screwed up so bad when he was on the Nimitz, between the morale, having to go to the shipyard to get the dead whale dragged off the displacement bow. Yeah. But he was an overall decent enough officer that instead of just stalling him out, they didn't give him his admirals, or, he didn't get his admiral, he got Commodore, and he got a desk job. And he was very, very good at commanding the desk, and I think he retired. As a vice admiral. He finally got his admiral star, but he got it as a logistics, more of a bookkeeper, desk jockey than as an aircraft carrier captain. Ironically, our XO, which is the second in command on the ship, went straight to he made captain while he was on the Nimitz. Went on, and I think last time I saw him on a documentary about supercarriers, I think he's a 3-star admiral now. He had a much more successful ride. Yeah, Andy, the U.S. Navy is not very forgiving, really. If you look at the Indianapolis, the captain of the Indianapolis was not at fault for what happened. He was given false intel and was following his exact orders when the Indianapolis got torpedoed. Okay. Now, he got thrown to the wolves because they needed a scapegoat. And the man finally, actually, the deaths of the sailors and everything, and the horror of the USS Indianapolis incident, the guy committed suicide. And of course, the Navy, in its grand wisdom 20 years later, absolved him of all responsibility, but that didn't help his career or family.
All right, gentlemen. Been a great show. And folks, don't miss next week when we talk about, is America great again, and was it ever? We're going to look at the Founding Fathers and some of the conspiracy stuff of how this country was founded.
Oh, you and I are going to have a blast on that one.
Won't we? And don't forget, tell your veteran buddies, July 26th is the premiere show of Can-Am Vets with Markham and I. You can find the link to it on Spaced Out Radio, www.spacedoutradio.com. It'll be from 7 to 9 p.m., just before Spaced Out Radio. So, all right, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next weekend.
All right. And good night, everyone.